Hello, hello. Welcome to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. Abel Pacheco here, the host of 5 Talents Podcast. We are extremely excited to have an amazing guest with us today, Mr. Bruce Wuollet. Bruce, how's it going, sir?
It's going great. It's a great day to be alive.
Man, you look like you're in a good spot doing this interview. So weather's nice over there, I'm imagining, man.
Yeah, if you like smoky skies, it's really beautiful. It says clear skies on the app, but that's smoke from California, and
man.
But otherwise, it's gorgeous. 70 degrees outside. It's very gorgeous here in northern Arizona.
Yeah, we're actually recording on September the 11th, 2020, and there's a bunch of fires going on. You know, California, Washington, Oregon, just some bad spots. So prayers to everybody that's maybe affected right now. And well, we're glad you're in some nice weather. So. Before we get started, I really want to introduce, Bruce to our listeners today. If you don't know Bruce, he's with Bakerson. He's the founder and owner visionary of Bakerson. He's been with the company and started 18 years ago. Bruce, you grew up in Minnesota. You live in Arizona today, so I'm assuming that's where the nice weather is at. And you're a full-time syndicator. And so he's got an amazing background. We'll dig into it, but his current portfolio, about 250 units, but that's really not the whole story. He has a track record of about 16 multifamily deals, 850 units, and he's got more than a little bit of experience on the single family side with over 2,000 single family properties, transactions, flips, however you want to call all the different deals, man. So that's Bruce. If you're not in a position where you can take notes, I would say maybe at some point you want to rewind, push play, and grab your pen and piece of paper, take some notes now, if not later. But anyways, Bruce, hey, nice to have you on. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, Abel, it's great to be here, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be on your show. This is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you start by sharing a little bit of your background, maybe who you are, what you do, and give us the full picture.
Sure, I can. So I tell people that I'm an SOB because I'm a son of a baker. I grew up in the bakery business in Minneapolis, the Wuollet Bakeries. And my dad was one of the owners. My grandfather was the founder. And I started working there at 11 years old. And so I've been, so I worked there till I was 26. I put 15 years of effort into the bakery business and gave a lot of tries to that in many different departments, and realized I really wanted to branch out on my own. Got into executive recruiting, headhunting, did really well with that. Had a couple of businesses that didn't go so well. And then in 2001, I got introduced to real estate, and it was tax lien foreclosures with my friend Gary, who's now passed away, but he was my mentor in tax lien foreclosures. And I found out that after working with him for a year that, man, Gary, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. What if the properties that we don't chase, I can go buy them? He said, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I started picking up properties on my own with a couple of guys. We picked up 3 houses, a duplex and a triplex, and we were renting them out. And I wanted to go full time. And so I partnered with Jack Martin, and we partnered in 2002, formed Bakerson. His dad worked for my dad, or with my dad, for my grandfather in Minneapolis. Jack then moved to Seattle, and we both met again in Phoenix, and we were partners for quite a few years, till 4 years ago. And we're still best friends, which is really exciting. That we're not business partners now, but we're still friends. We were friends before, we were friends after. Many ways we're closer after. And so people do ask the question, how do you have a business partner for so long and do so well. And what I share with people is forgiveness. You never go to bed angry at the business partner, just like you should never go to bed angry at your spouse or your significant other. Makes for much more peaceful sleep and a better day tomorrow. So we got into houses, and we were flipping houses like there was no tomorrow. We were doing, biggest day was 7 transactions in one day.
In one
and it
day.
Was like at three different title companies. It was really chaotic. It was awesome.
I was wondering the volume
I like living
that it takes to do 2,000 deals. I go, well, seven in a day. Yeah, that's somewhat of a volume.
Yeah, 200-300 a year after year. It was
Wow.
It was amazing on those. So we did that for a while. But what happened, and I want to share this just because people know that markets shift, and it's very important for me to look back and say, okay, every market shift, I was caught in a downturn. And I was stuck with something. One time it was a big piece of land that cost me nearly everything. We started over. Then we really got heavy, 2009, 10, 11, 12. We were flipping houses really, really fast. Sometimes in hours, our average hold was 52 days in and out of the transactions. And so we didn't hold them very long. And what happened was the technology came in and started replacing people at the auction. And of course, I was like, there's no way we could ever get replaced, that this is a people business. But I realized that people could go online, they could bid on a property, buy a property, and get financing and title insurance without leaving their house. Mm-hmm. And I did not jump on that bandwagon. We did it the old way, door knocking and finding things. And we found out that, we just can't compete. Their margins, people were coming in and buying at way thinner margins. So we started flipping or wholesaling multifamily. And we did 25, 26 apartment buildings, and we just flipped them for anywhere from 10 to 50 grand to other investors, and they took them down. And one day a group came to us and said, hey, we got these deals and we can't finance them. Do you think you guys could help? But give it a try. So we bought a 64 unit and 120 unit. Mm-hmm. 64 unit was in Phoenix, 120 unit in Glendale. In the 120 unit deal, we had 21 days before the bank was going to call the note. They gave them 21 days to perform. And so we moved really fast. We were able to put that deal together with these guys. And so we had, multiple partners, between everybody, 6-7 people involved, which is really fun, but it was difficult to continue to scale that. So we said, well, can we do this on our own? And we bought 4 other buildings in Phoenix. And then Phoenix market, I said, oh, this market's peaked. It's way too hot. The margins are too slim. And so I started buying in Tucson, where there was a lot cooler market, but we could still see the same trajectory. And so we ended up buying 11 projects in Tucson, the smallest being 12, largest 107. And all syndication and syndication type. Sometimes they're one investor.
Yeah,
that brought in the money, but we still ran it as a syndication.
Okay.
We called it internally one-off syndication.
Yeah, that still makes sense. It's passive. You're following the rules on the syndication side, and that's what it is. Let me pause you here, because all of this is like a good number of experience. It's just going so quickly, right? So how many years did it take you to do 2,000 houses in single family? How many years was that?
Well, that had been all the way up to a few years ago, so 16.
Okay, and then
15 years, I suppose.
Okay, great. And then how long did you wholesale multifamily deals? How long was that run?
About a year and a half.
Okay,
year and a half, something like that. I don't know exactly, but about a year and a half.
Okay, you basically saw the fact that they were crushing it. You were getting a small piece, and it was very transactional, I'm imagining.
Yeah, well, what happened is when I looked at it, and we could spend a whole meeting on this, but I don't want to. But when I looked at it, I said, how can you possibly take that building down? It's 120 units. Well, this property the 120 units was 4 plexes, 30 4plexes on a property. And I broke it down into 4 plexes, broke it down to individual units. The 64 unit, I just pretended like it was 64 individual houses on a spreadsheet. We broke it down by unit, how much work needs to get done. And all of a sudden, it's okay, I get it now, because I broke it down per unit. Yeah. And I still ask, like, how much is our cost per unit? How much? And this team doesn't always know. And I said, I have to know per unit, because that's what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
because I can scale that. If it's 50 or 150, if you know the cost per unit, you kind of know if you're in the right ballpark for based on rents and operational cost.
Yep. I like that breakdown because I do have new passive investors that always ask me, well, how do you know if it's a good deal? And, I go, well, in Texas, whatever the median house house price is, okay, you have that dollar. Well, what if you're buying 100 unit property and they're $65K a door and we're renting them out for $900? Would you buy a single house for $65K where you can rent it out for $900 a month? And they're like, I think that makes sense. I go, we're doing the same. We're just buying 100 at the same time. So the per unit rehab, per unit cost, it makes a lot of sense, man. And so you saw that for a year, and then you transition to, we need to be on the other end of this. We need to be the buyers, right? And
yes.
So the 64 unit and the 120 unit in Phoenix and Glendale, how long did you do the JV thing? What sounds like joint venture between 5 or 6 partners. How long was that before you said, you know what, I'm going to go syndicate it and try to do more on my own?
Well, we did those 2 deals. We were in and out of those in 17 months, each of them.
Okay.
So they're relatively short holds.
Yes, sir.
And so we just realized as we're going through the process, they were great people. It was just a little bit fractured. Our vision was different. My passion and focus is on the resident more than anything else. So you want to take care of the resident who takes care of the property. Yep. And to me, that's the best way for asset protection, is to take care of your residents. And they had a different vision. It was about the dollars, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying their business model was wrong. It was just fractured vision. Yeah. And I couldn't see scaling that. So it was probably 6 to 9 months into the project I realized that, hey, these are good partners, it's just not what I want.
Yeah. I have a coach that tells me if you're aligned at your purpose, if you're aligned, at the highest level, a lot of other things fall into place. But if you don't take the time to kind of learn more about your partners, you could be headed down a road that, is on 2 separate paths. Not that there's anything wrong, like you said, with making as much profit as possible. Hey, that's great. And if your vision is, I want to take care of the community, the families, the people there, and improve, then those are just, they could be a little conflicting at times, right? So that led you to syndication of the deals. So when did that start for you, and how many years has this been for you now?
We've been syndicating for 7 years.
Okay.
And we did a mini fund at one point for buying and selling houses. And then we moved into that was more of a fund model, but then we moved into the syndication model, and we've done 16 syndications to date.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations. Super impressive on the track record. And how many of those have gone full cycle already? Like, in other words, sold for the listeners. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, 13. We've got 3 left. So
that's awesome.
But we're in the sale mode, and we can touch on that briefly if you want. That we went from wholesaling to syndicating for in and out in 2 to 3 years at maximum. And now we're looking at, what if we bought and never sold? I asked that question, what would that look like? And I sat down and I penned out, how would that look? What if we had legacy ownership where we bought and never sold? And the investors say, well, we don't want to be in it forever. Okay, what could we do to buy you out? How could we set that up? And so we are right now on a 90 unit in Tucson that we bought in December of last year. We're gonna keep that one long term, as long as we can get an investor base transition from buy fix and sell to buy fix, and we hold it, and then they can get their money out, and we can, in 3 to 5 years, and they can either stay in the deal or get out. That's kind of the discussions we're having with a couple of investment groups right now. But our goal, my thought is, why would I ever sell? And just because I have a passion for the resident, and when you sell the property and you see how the new owners treat the residents, it's kind of like, we put all this effort in for a couple of years, and these guys just totally ignore them. And I said, that's just, I have too much passion for taking care of the community, and I charge them rent to live there. But these are self-paying residents. I'm not talking subsidized. We'll do up to 10 or 15% subsidized. Mm-hmm. All the rest are self-paying workforce housing, lower income, people that have jobs at the local convenience, local retail. Those are the people that we attract, and we want to keep a base of that because they just want a place to live that's safe, functional, durable, and clean. It's that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like the thought process of the more that you give back, the more that you help others, the more that you see people succeed through your, the place that of residence that you're providing, the better that our community, our families, people in the area, and it's a very virtuous cycle because you're treating them better than any other place that they would stay at the same price point, and then what we provide is a product that they want to stay in and live as long as possible, and it actually helps our return as well in the long run. So that's fantastic. um, on that
Yes, it
note,
is. And
go ahead, Bruce. Sorry, go ahead.
so, no, that is really important for us because if you can make that impact, you're doing the right thing. And I like when I walk to a property, and it's happened more than once, when they find out I'm the owner. I wear shorts and a polo shirt and hiking shoes. They don't really know if I'm the owner, but oftentimes they figure it out, and they're like, and when more often than not they say thank you, I'm like, wow, I didn't expect it. And I
Yeah,
said, that is really worth it. Just, hey, thank you for what you're doing here. To me, is really, really special as an owner. A lot
yeah,
of owners won't go to the properties. They don't ever want to talk to the residents. They treat them as second-class citizens. And I grew up in a place where no matter socioeconomic scale, everybody's the same. Humans are humans, and that's how I need to be.
yeah. I have friends in other businesses, and one of the common themes among them is the servitude that they provide. I mean, they make really great money, business owners doing their thing. However, what lights them up is the servitude and knowing that they make a difference in someone else's lives. It's easy to give, above and beyond, and going outside of the normal role to help people, and then it's great for all of us. We all make money and provide a positive impact. So that's awesome, man. And so now it's like, well, I've never heard it put like that, Bruce. I've never heard somebody say, I did a lot of work, I improved my community, and I hand it off, and the community goes downhill. And so now I've heard hold for other reasons, mainly wealth, but I like that mindset too. So tell us about your, the future plans on your attempt and probably execution of multiple holds, multifamily holds in the future.
Absolutely. So that on the buy, fix, and hold, if we can find a group of people that want to take that journey with us, we will attract those. If they want to be purchased, bought out and get, we'll pre-negotiate before they invest. They know what their buyout is, double-digit returns, and they may get their money back. But we're going to find where that lies, and we have some good feelings. I have a pretty good feeling where that's going to go, but I'm not going to play those cards yet because there's still opportunities for people to get in to this project that we're working on. And so I want to make sure that we can meet their needs. But the thing that I have is we're very good at finding properties. We're very good at turning them around and managing them and making them something special. And something that I've had a harder time bridging the gap is actually attracting capital, specifically, like talking to investors. We have somebody in our company, Ruben, who has a passion for talking to investors. And for me, it's fun, but really it's the brick and mortar. I said, well, you know what? I still want to be able to make that transition to a legacy owner where the investors call, I give them updates and be in touch. So I went outside of my standard procedure, and I have on my to get done list every day is I will talk to 3 investors a day that I've never talked, and I try to get one investor I've never talked to before, brand new, get them on a phone call through networking, through Ruben, through other people. And I'm a little behind on that, but I'm way ahead on talking to our current investor base. I want to talk to two a day on those, and some days it's 4 or 5. So it's really been a fun journey. And then once I get that underway, then I can hand those back off to Ruben, and he can do his thing as investor relations. But I found out that my fears that I had, not fears, but my uncertainty in talking to the investors is irrelevant. People love talking. They love hearing the story. What are you doing? Where are you going? What's good? What's bad? What have you learned? And they don't care if you have, hey, we're running into a challenge here. That's okay. It's not the challenge. They want to know that, but they say, but what are you doing about it? That's what they're more interested in learning. And as soon as I figured that out, I said, okay, I can call anybody, anytime, anywhere regarding our upcoming opportunities. But long-term, I really want to walk properties, make offers, and do negotiations. That's where I'm strong.
So thank you very much for that insight. Right, I think there are in multifamily, at least, it's a team effort. There's no one man, or probably not one man that can do a deal on his own, from finding to financing to running an operation. It's probably just not out there. We all work together as a team, right? And so a couple of things that you've mentioned, you've got some strengths: walking properties, finding deals, looking at the actual boots on the ground piece, and you're leveraging one of your teammates, or now Bakerson guys, Ruben, who helps you go and kind of find other new investors. But you're still stretching yourself to go outside of your norm and meet with those investors. So that's awesome. Number one, knowing your strengths, and then number two, stretching to go a little bit outside of that norm.
It's been exciting. One of the other things to realize with boots on the ground is one thing we noticed right now, that we got a very short window, and I don't want to share my secrets, but I realize there are no secrets. So with the internet these days, but
yeah.
So somebody may grab this and run with it, which is great. I think hope they can get a nugget. But what I'm thinking right now is there's a lot of international investors that can't come here right now. There's travel restrictions probably for the next couple of months. Yeah. And they want to buy a building yet this year. So if they want to buy in Arizona, I want to be those boots on the ground. And we have funding groups from outside of the U.S. that want us to be a partner with them, anywhere from a minority to a majority. It's kind of runs the gamut. Yeah. They have access, they have capital, but they're not in country, and they can't come here. So they need boots on the ground to share with their investment group or with their own family, international family office. And we're like, we can be those people in Phoenix and Tucson. Absolutely. So yeah, we got some people that are really excited to have us boots on the ground, because that's what we're good at.
Yeah. You've got a tremendous track record, a tremendous ability of, seeing the insides and outsides of property, 2,000 of them. And now in multifamily syndication, like, still, let's look at this thing per unit and see what it's going to cost to fix. And then they're bigger properties, and you can leverage other expertise for that big roof, for those big systems, for the big, plumbing, HVAC, and, all the big electrical systems on the property. But you already understand the inner workings, and then you're local there in the market. So attracting those other investors it makes a lot of sense. So this is probably a topic that I would say a lot of people are trying to figure out how to do today. With COVID, it's September, like we said, 2020. Things are a little bit tighter. It's locked down. There's no more big networking events where we're trying to meet 500-600 people in a weekend. How do you maybe discipline yourself? How do you tactically go about trying to get 3 new investor calls a day? And, maybe talk about, top to bottom scheduling, what your mindset, whatever tools, anything you'd like to touch on this that might really help some people trying to figure out how to do it.
Well, the biggest thing is I think it's important not to spend a lot of time on COVID. It's an event that's going to come and go. And so people are going to talk about what's going on and be concerned. And I also found out that if you move to people that are over 2 million net worth, even in the 5 to 10 million, they're more likely to look at the bigger picture, because people with a lower net worth their liquidity is less. So when they see something happen, they're going to hold back and be very conservative, which is probably a good thing for them, because they can't risk their capital because they don't have a lot of it. So they want to be more conservative through this cycle. But the people that have a long view of where markets are going, it's really important for them to see, well, that's great, we'll get through this. In fact, some of the higher net worth people I've talked to don't even talk about what's going on currently. They say, in 5 years, this is what we expect. In 10 years, we expect this. So are you able to hold this property 5 to 10 years? And somewhere in there, maybe we could either reposition or sell it. So we're like, sure, that sounds great. So we got a 10-year plan. And in 10 years, you either sell it, keep it, refinance, we don't know. But somewhere in the 5 to 10 years, you'll feel where there's a peak again, where it might be good to sell that property and buy something else, or reposition it through a refinance. So having these conversations with investors to look beyond tomorrow, look beyond December, look beyond 2020, look beyond the upcoming election, and not get bogged down that this is what the problem is today, bogged down, I should say. This is the problem today, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the problem tomorrow. And this has impact, But is today really going to drain us 5 years from now? No, but 5 years from now, we'll have new problems, new challenges, new growth, new opportunities. So let's be a little bit broader in our view of where we're going and what we're doing. I just know right now there's a huge demand for housing nationwide and lower income. That's not going to go away. If we have a market turn, there's going to be even a higher demand for lower income. How could there not?
Mm-hmm.
So now we just need to make sure we take care of the assets.
Man, those are fantastic kind of insights, because for most people that are not $5 to $10 million net worth or higher, you are living in the day to day and trying to make sure that I play the right position for my my daily income, my daily bread, my expenses, today budget. But if you can pick yourself up a little bit and look long term, you're really trying to figure out how to preserve your capital, how to invest it wisely for the future, and you can have a longer view. Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, if you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review, and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. So what would you maybe what would be your insight, right, for the person that doesn't have $1 million but wants to invest, and maybe your nugget for the the ultra high net worth? I think we've already kind of talked about the ultra high net worth, but maybe just a compare and contrast. Like, so what's the nugget on, man, you don't have $1 million? Here's what I would do. Here's how I would invest. And you do have several million. This is kind of how the way I would approach it.
Well, we have a rule that has nothing to do with this year, with the year we're in. I call it the 2020 rule, but it has nothing to do with the calendar. It has to do with, we ask investors to invest no more than 20% of their net worth. And we also, in our projects from now going forward, we do not want one investor have no more than 20% of the deal. So if we have $1 million investment, we have a minimum of 5 investors in that deal. Mm-hmm. So we have no more than 20% per investor. That way, you end up, if somebody has a lot of money, you say, well, why don't you get into multiple projects instead of just one? And that helps us in the capital raise. That'll help us in the trajectory that we're looking to build. And then the other thing is, if you tell people no more than 20% of their own capital, then if they have $1 million net worth, don't do more than 200,000 with us. I've had people that have, had a net worth of 100,000. I didn't know, and they invested 50. Well, that makes me a little nervous when I find that out. What if it doesn't go well? Now they're stuck, and that was their nest egg. They've spent their whole life saving up, and to them 100,000 was a lot of money, which it is. And all of a sudden they got 50 of it at risk with me. No more than 20. So that's how I encourage investors to do that on their own as well.
I think that's just really prudent, really wise, really sage advice. When you think about it, it's no more than 20% of your net worth. And then as an individual, I don't want any partner more than 20% of the deal. And that's great. That's good insight. I think that provides a lot of value. So
feels healthy.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to pick that up. So yes, I am taking a nugget, at least myself, maybe a few other listeners too. So we have a few minutes left, but before, I forget. So, at the end here, let's just do this now. If somebody wants to get in your world, Bruce, and they want to get, they want some more education, they want some more insight on your deals, on your opportunities, how do they reach out to you?
Well, they can go to the website, bakerson.com, Bakerson, so it's bakerson.com. Bruce@bakerson.com is my email, and my cell number, 520-808-9111. I encourage you to have people call me. I've got a number of calls from podcasts I've been on, and it's really been a great conversation. So people are open to call me. I'll continue to give it out until it takes up too much of my time, which it has not to date. So I encourage your listeners to call.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. We'll put all that information in the show notes, and you'll definitely be able to reach out to Bruce at Bakerson. So I do want to ask Bakerson, I've read your bio. I've read some of that, and I think you said it in the beginning. You're maybe in your background and bio. So tell us about Bakerson, the actual name.
Yeah. So like I said, I grew up in the family business. My grandfather started the Wuollet Bakery, and my father bought it from him, and my father and my uncle. And so then when I was Jack and I formed our business, one day I was driving down the 51, a freeway in Phoenix, and I called Jack. I said, I got our name. He said, what's that? I said, Bakerson. We're both sons of bakers. Both of our dads were bakers, sons of bakers. And so a baker's son. And he says, man, that kind of ticks me off. I said, why? He says, I wish I would have thought of it first.
And so
I don't know. Friendly rivalry.
I love it. And I don't know if you caught it, that's what the SOB is, the son of baker. So just making sure our listeners heard
son
that.
That's
baker,
awesome,
yeah. Man. So in your
by the way,
go ahead.
My dad passed away now 14 years ago, but when I named the business, he was not an emotional guy necessarily, but when I named the business, he had a little tear in his eye, and he called me Boo. He said, thank you, Boo. Man. He really liked that I named the business, kind of after him in a way. Yeah. So it's been tremendous, and I want to carry on his legacy as well.
The baker's son, man, that's awesome. On the note, every once in a while we'll ask, and I'd like to ask you, are you a first generation real estate investor, or did your dad or did your grandparents, were they investors? Did they have that first property plus rental? In any way, shape, or form, or are you the first generation here?
No, I'm first generation. My father, the only real estate he owned besides his home, he had a house in Arizona, a house in Minnesota, a house in Scottsdale, or a condo, and then he owned the buildings that the bakeries were on, and he rented that back to the business. But it wasn't an investment company per se. So no, I'm first generation doing what we're doing, and from our family. And it's really been an exciting journey. So I learned in the streets, and I've got a lot of scars. If people want to know about scars and missteps, I've made a lot of them, and that's something that people can learn from. So if people want to hear what is the worst story, that's for another show, another time. Call me, and I'll share some of the bruises we've taken. We've got some scars.
Yeah, you should after that many properties, and also somebody listening new. Maybe we can use this as a good, last few questions, right? You've had probably multiple, scars, if not, in 2,000 plus projects, right? Many of them. I hear sometimes that somebody tried real estate investing and they get their tail handed to them, like on the first deal, on the second deal, my first 3, right? And it's so hard to hear those stories because I didn't have to experience them on my first deals. But what would you tell that person that just, they do the first deal and they lose? Maybe they're second and they lose, and they're about to say, real estate's not for me. What kind of advice and insight would you give them?
Probably the best thing is to seek out counsel of other people that have been in the business and see what they're doing, where their missteps are. Because if somebody Abel brought you a deal and said, hey, look at this deal I'm looking at. It's a 12 unit, 70,000 a door, needs 10,000 a door in repairs, and the rent's $650. You're like, well, those numbers don't really add up, but they think it does because they think that, we can do 25% expense ratio, when actually when you hire a third-party manager, you're at 45%. We run ours at a 45 to 50% expense ratio on the napkin math. And then once you put it into our underwriting model, I'll tell you exactly what it is. But so many people say, hey, I could self-manage this at 25% expense ratio. Well, that's, your time is free. Well, it's really not. So that's one of the challenges people have. So best thing to do, if you've had a few bumps and bruises, reach out to those that have had successes and just have them look at your deal and help you underwrite it to see where you went wrong. And I bet you they could pinpoint in a short meeting where your missteps were.
Yeah.
And that probably the best thing is don't be afraid to ask for help
Yep.
ever.
Yeah, yeah, tremendous advice. I definitely don't do any of my multifamily deals without some expertise. Even now that I feel like I've had a few cycles, going under me, I'm still not going to try to do that thing without seeking counsel, along my deal. So that's fantastic. I'm glad you pointed that out. How does somebody new reach out to somebody else that has experience? And let's say I did get my butt handed to me and I'm trying to reach out to somebody else. It's COVID time. I can't, reach this new person. Like, what do I even say to somebody on the internet, and how do I reach out and extend a hand right now? I'd love to get your insight there.
Well, there's Bigger Pockets is one way that's pretty broad that people are willing to share on Bigger Pockets like you wouldn't believe. So you go to Bigger Pockets. You could also reach out to local brokers and say, hey, I've got this deal that I bought and I got it handed to me. It's really been a struggle. That who do you know I could talk to? Or maybe the broker would talk to you. So you can reach out to brokers. There's local, like we have ASREA, Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. We have that ASREAs, so you got local investment groups, and any major market has investment groups. You could reach out to them. The presidents of those will always, that's what they're big on building their network. So reach out to them. And then searching podcasts and listen to other people's shows. That's what I started listening to some podcast shows, and I pulled up, okay, somebody's secrets to raising capital. And, 9 out of 10 of them are a lot of fluff, but there's that one that has a really good, it's like, oh man, that's a good thing to remember.
Yeah.
But a lot of people give such vague answers, such vague distribution of ideas. But those are a few, but probably the best thing is, get in touch with the local real estate groups or Bigger Pockets. I would recommend that too.
Yeah. All those are fantastic. And, if you've been listening now, you've picked up a few nuggets from Bruce. I think that was another one, extending yourself, making it a goal, writing it down, 3 new investor calls, a day, 2 existing ones a day. And if you don't have investors yet, or you're not at that point where you're raising capital, then one of your goals should be, how do I find or talk to at least a new investor a day? And if you don't have existing investors yet, it's, who are your partners? Who are your vendors? Who are the people that serve you? Who are your teammates? Who's your power team? And you want to call those and get in that habit of extending yourself on Bigger Pockets, on virtual, on social. Pick up the podcast. All of individuals like Bruce, you're interviewing like crazy. How many interviews have you done recently, Bruce? Podcast interviews like this?
As a guest, this is number 28 in the last 13 months, 12 and a half months.
So almost a year, 28 of these interviews, super exciting. He's gone out, really put his message out there. Do you think somebody like Bruce is trying to do that because he doesn't want people to reach out to him? Bruce, if somebody reached out to you right now, would you take a call?
Absolutely. I would absolutely take a call.
So I think that's part of it, is just getting over the fact that, like, no, not everyone's going to answer your call, but somebody like Bruce will, and you won't know if you don't reach out in the first place. So get out of your comfort zone. Maybe that's, one last question that I have for you, Bruce, is it sounds like you like the property, you like being, boots on the ground, but it was a stretch for you to reach out to so many people. How did you, how did you deal with that mentally, or how did you prepare yourself for, I'm gonna just break out of my norm and start talking to people, even though that's not your favorite place to be?
Just do it. Just do it, and you'll fumble and make some mistakes along the way, and you'll actually have some challenges talking to people. But just don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed. And I have pretty thick skin, so it went pretty quick. And I've actually started to really enjoy it.
Yeah, man, I agree.
Just to do it. I mean, I think just do it, set a target and do it. I have an app that pops up every day at the end of the day and asks me, how many calls did you make? And I have to go through and fill that out. And when I have 0 in there, I kind of say, that wasn't good. Tomorrow I got to make up for that. Yeah, and I don't try to say, okay, tomorrow now I got to do double. Tomorrow I still need to do the 3 to 5 calls, period.
Yeah.
Don't say, all of a sudden I got to do 10 or I got to do 15, because then you're going to lose interest again. Just start tomorrow with a new start. I'll do 3 to 5 tomorrow, but not, if you get 0 today, 3 to 5 tomorrow. That's probably the easiest way, is always set 3 to 5 is what you want to do, regardless of what you did yesterday. That's helped me tremendously on days that I didn't make any calls.
Man, fantastic. From somebody who's done a ton of real estate over the last, 16 plus years and just absolutely crushed it. Congratulations on all your success. Bruce, is there anything we didn't talk about today that you really wanted to highlight? I just didn't ask you. Take as much time as you want. Anything at all.
You covered it pretty well. I think the biggest thing for me is the focus on the resident. I said that in the beginning. You take care of the property will you take care of the residents take care of the property takes care of the sponsors and investors. I think it's very important for me. And there's other property owners out there like that. But that's probably my biggest pet peeve in real estate is the owners who do not care about the residents or treat them with dignity. So that's all I ask is the listeners would always treat their residents with dignity, because they are humans, whether or not they make $1 million a year or not. It doesn't matter. If they're making $30,000 a year and they're renting from you, treat them with dignity. Most of them are doing the best they can with the gifts that they have. So just accept that and don't treat them less than correct.
All right, man. Bruce, God bless you and your business and everything that you do, man. That's awesome. And we appreciate your time very much so and giving back. I think our listeners are going to get some good wisdom from this podcast interview.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on, Abel. This has been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Abel Pacheco. I'm your host for the 5 Talents Podcast. Excited about today. We'll put Bruce's contact information in the show notes. Reach out to him, ping him. You heard him. He wants to get in contact with 3 new investors a day. So you can help him hit his goals by doing so. And if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can go on our website at 5TCRE.com. If you're looking for more resources and education, we have a passive investor's handbook to multifamily. We've got a bunch of podcasts. We've got a bunch of education webinars. Feel free, ping us. And then again, I want to get in contact with you too. I like the goal of 3 new investors a day. So help me hit my goal too. So whenever you have a moment, let us know. But thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we've had a great time. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the 5 Talents Podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who followed their dreams and achieved massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the 5 Talents Podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked, tell us your favorite guest, give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast.